Okay, let's jump right into this explainer where we unpack a truly fascinating concept from a creator named Roma. Today we're breaking down his unique method for shattering those invisible ceilings we all seem to hit in life. But here's the twist. We are not going to talk about changing what you do. We're going to talk about fundamentally transforming who you are. Let's look at the Identity Shift Protocol.
Now, before we get into the actual mechanics of how this works, consider this striking paradox at the heart of the source material. Can the version of you that created a mess be the exact same version that cleans it up? Roma argues that, well, it usually can't, or at least not without a tremendous amount of painful friction.
All right, part 1, the identity trap.
Roma paints this really vivid picture of a man who, on paper anyway, had totally won the game. He'd successfully sold an IT company, built a great team, and reached real financial success. But internally, his reality was completely different. He lived in this state of constant anxiety. He was so paralyzed by the fear of failure that he was literally afraid to spend a few extra bucks painting his own studio walls. He had the money, for sure, but his internal state just hadn't caught up to his external reality.
And then it hit him. He realized this profound truth. He was doing everything right. He was using the right strategies, putting in the grueling hard work, but every single solution he tried to implement came with massive setbacks. Why? Because he was trying to fix his anxiety and his business plateaus using the exact same internal operating system that created those problems in the first place.
Which brings us to section 2, the New York Epiphany.
Picture this. This is the deeply personal moment of failure that forced him out of that trap. Roma had poured weeks of his own time and cash into preparing a one-man theater performance. He's riding this wave of anticipation, driving up to New York on the day of the show. And then, right at the halfway point, bing, he gets an email. The show is canceled. Absolutely no one bought a ticket. It was just a crushing defeat.
But instead of just pulling the car over and throwing in the towel, this defeat sparked a super introspective question. He actually asked himself, who do I have to become for things to be the way I want them? Notice the phrasing there. Not, what new marketing tactics should I use, but who did he have to become?
He started visualizing this higher version of himself. He pictured the Roma who successfully fills theater halls in New York, walking onto a stage in the absolute epicenter of competition. And he wrote down 10 skills this future version needed. You know what the number one skill was? It wasn't charisma or better acting. It was simply this. I act from a state of peace. That was the missing ingredient. Kind of makes you wonder what your number one missing skill might be right now, doesn't it?
Moving on to section 3, the art of soaking.
So how do you bridge that massive gap between an anxious current self and a peaceful future self? Well, this leads us to the core definition of an identity shift. It's the conscious, creative creation of your own identity. Listen, it is emphatically not about visualizing goals or repeating empty affirmations in a mirror. It's about actively entering the state of your higher version, that state of peace or abundance, and staying there. You just sit in it until your subconscious mind starts treating it as your new baseline normal.
Roma actually took this concept to a 10-day silent Vipassana meditation retreat. And sitting there on the cushion, it clicked. Every single time his mind wandered and he returned to his breath, he wasn't just doing some spiritual practice. He was actively training the exact muscle of peace that his higher future version required. That little meditation cushion became a literal gym for his new identity.
While he was meditating, he asked himself this profound question. And it's a great one to ask yourself, by the way. He thought, if $1 billion were lying right in front of me, or if my New York show had totally sold out, would I be sitting here any differently? The answer was a flat no. He realized that in that moment of absolute stillness, he already possessed everything he needed. External circumstances didn't have to dictate his internal mental posture.
And that realization led to the specific 3-step mechanism of the shift. Step 1, you deliberately enter a specific mental space, what he calls the room of abundance. Step 2 is conscious soaking. You let that feeling of having everything you need completely wash over you. You literally soak in it. And step 3, over time, this repeated soaking permanently forms your new baseline identity.
To prove just how powerful this is, the source notes what happened when Roma actually returned home. Objectively, his life hadn't changed at all. He was sharing an apartment, he didn't own a car, he was still pinching pennies on rent. But internally, he maintained that state of peace. He felt like a billionaire. He realized that this internal soaking is way stronger than your external circumstances. Your internal state is stronger than the story the world is currently telling you. Imagine how freeing it would be if you genuinely lived like that?
Let's look at Section 4, Inside the Protocol.
Fast forward a couple of years. Living inside this experiment allowed Roma to naturally adopt habits that used to take massive willpower. He was running multiple businesses without the burnout. And that brings us to this number, 170. This protocol isn't just theory. It's a battle-tested framework built on 12 years of personal practice, 10 grueling Vipassana retreats, and the hard-won experience of 170 completed projects.
The source material breaks this protocol down into 8 specific parts. It's basically a comprehensive map. It starts with the foundation of how our identities are even structured, moves right through that soaking mechanism we just discussed, gives you your first practice, hands over 8 concrete tools, establishes a daily rhythm, and then shows you how to go even deeper before reaching the peak, inhabiting your absolute highest version.
I actually really love how clear Roma is about setting expectations here. This is deliberately not your standard run-of-the-mill course. It's not some burst of quick motivation promising you fast results. Instead, it is a map designed for a 1 to 2 year journey. He describes it as more of a private, intimate 10-hour conversation at a table, just sharing exactly what worked and what didn't.
Which leads us to Section 5. Is this for you?
Roma is super upfront that this specialized protocol isn't for everybody. It's positioned strictly as a next-level step for people who have already done some foundational work. It's for high-achieving entrepreneurs who keep hitting invisible ceilings, creators who are totally burnt out on a plateau, or folks who have external success but feel like it lacks meaning. Ultimately, it's for anyone who feels like their current identity has basically become a restrictive cage.
The cost of accessing this intimate map is $150. And the source material makes a really interesting point here. This price tag acts as a deliberate filter. It's meant to attract the people who are genuinely ready for this specific type of deep, slow work, and to weed out anyone just looking for empty, quick-fix promises.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought straight from Roma's philosophy. What would happen if you stopped constantly fighting your problems, stopped exhausting your willpower trying to smash through glass ceilings, and instead did the deep work to fundamentally shift the identity that created them in the first place? What if you became a person for whom those ceilings simply don't even exist? It's a pretty massive shift in perspective, right? Thanks for exploring this with me, and keep questioning your own boundaries.